Reagan is performing.
That's
and
amazing.
I love her. She's amazing. Live chat performance. Okay.
I keep refreshing it, trying to see if it's...
It's live and it's working, and you can see us, and we're cool beans.
Oh! Hi, guys.
Haha.
Oh, there we are.
Perfect. I hope you all have a wonderful time. I'm going to pass you off to the delightful Meg Hood, who is your host for this witching panel. Have fun and poke me if you need anything.
Okay. I don't know how to poke you, but I will yell. I'll just start yelling. And then I'll send you a feisty email. Help. Hi, guys. Welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to the tea room. Welcome in. We're going to be talking witchy fantasy today, but we'll wait a little while for a few minutes just to let everybody kind of come in. So we'll just start by just chatting. How's everyone doing? Sangu, what time is it where you are?
Almost 11.
Oh my god.
I mean, this is normal for me. It's fine.
Are you a night owl? Do you prefer night or morning?
I don't know if prefer is the right word. I think it's more like necessity. It's just
what you have to do.
Now.
Sure.
The night holds you against your will.
Pretty much it.
What about everybody else? Are you guys night or evening writers? How about that?
Oh.
I wrote my most recent book that I just turned in like almost exclusively at night because it's like it has celestial vibes, and I don't know, I got like really in my head, I overthought it, and then I just couldn't write it when it was daytime. I had to write it in the darkness.
That's fair. I feel like we'll see it in the final product too, and that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could she see when she was writing this? It was dark.
I had a cool answer like that, but I write during the day when the kids are at school. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah.
How many kids do you have, Auralee?
3.
3.
I don't know why I said that with a face.
I do the same thing. Yeah,
that's fair.
Many, I'm like,
3 beautiful.
We're doing great. Everyone's fine. Nothing's on fire.
Well, I do actually. One thing is on fire.
Well, oh boy.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
That's so nice. Oh, how cozy.
Yeah. No, it's a very rainy evening here, so it called for fire. As for what time I write, it's basically fully dependent on how much writer's block I have. And also, if I have to be anywhere that day, I find that as soon as I have to be somewhere at noon, all of a sudden I get all this great stuff right before, and I'm late.
Yep. I feel like I'm definitely a morning person. I'm not a writer, but everything in my life happens in the morning, which I never would have guessed growing up, because that was not the case as a teen and 20s in college or anything. But there's something about the morning that I just love now. I love it. I think it's so nice, especially when it's just quiet. I don't know if that's the same with 3 children in your world or if you get that in the morning. Yeah.
Sometimes it's sort of really early in the morning.
Yeah.
Sangu, do you also have kids?
Do Sangu or me? Did you say me? Yeah, Sangu.
You. Yeah.
No, you, Meg, I think. Or did you say me?
You.
Yeah, no, I've got
11
3 as
p.m.
well.
at night.
Yeah, no, I have 3. That's why I'm, sort of like by necessity when they're asleep. That's when most of the work gets done.
That makes sense.
I love it.
Oh my
I love it. I do not have children, but I do have a lot of toys. So
Same.
It would be so fun to have them here, but no, we are child free. Yeah.
We just have the cat, so that's enough drama cause for the time being, anyway.
I feel that.
Kitten tomorrow.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I
He's
love
great and
that.
fluffy, and I'm dying for it.
Do you have a name for it yet?
It's either going to be It's either going to be Fred or Kruger. son came up with.
That's amazing.
I love it.
So I'm leaning towards friend, but yeah.
I love it. I love it. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Celeste. You guys, people are starting to come in. Hi, y'all. It's so good to see you. Thank you for being here. I hope everyone is so cozy. I hope you have something warm, maybe a little blanket, maybe a little potion. I don't know, something that matches the vibe. I've got a tea. Do you guys have anything cozy? Ah, Sydney, what you got?
I have a vanilla latte that my partner made for me with our new Nespresso, which is our pride and joy. That's our
That's
child,
so kind.
the Nespresso
That's,
machine.
yes, fair. That's so kind.
I have a gingery honey tea that my husband literally just put down next to me. So
I love it.
I love the mug.
I was about to say, Sydney, it's your
oh,
mug.
yes, Sydney.
Oh, I love the bees.
I love it. So sweet. Well, you guys, we can probably start getting ready here. If you guys are ready, I'm ready. Y'all good?
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it. Let's get started because people are starting to come in, and I am very anxious to go because I have so many questions. And again, hopefully I don't stump you. I don't think I will. This is just going to be joy. I am overwhelmingly excited. Okay, so welcome everyone to the Witchy Cozy Fantasy panel. My name is Meg. I am a cozy fantasy content creator. You can find me at Meg's Tea Room on social media. This is my little tea room. I do little dress up cosplay type of stuff, and discussing cozy fantasy stories is literally my job. And I can say with full confidence that every single author represented here today has made my job a joy. I'm not going to cry. I am going to cry a little bit. Ooh, oh, it's coming. You guys, every single one of you.
I'll cry.
We might cry a little bit. I'm so honored and excited to be here. And each of your stories have touched my heart in some way along my journey as a cozy fantasy creator, and it's been so much fun to see all of your stories shine over the past few years within my community. You were also beloved, so I'm over the moon to welcome each of you, and I'd like to begin with some introductions. So let's begin with Auralee. Auralee Wallace, if you'll give us a little wave whenever I call you out. So after spending her formative years reading Grimm's fairy tales, that's so real, and stirring up potions in the creek behind her house, I would have been best friends with you, Auralee Wallace knew she would grow up to be a witch. And when that didn't work out, she decided that becoming a writer was the next best thing. Fair. Now Auralee is the author of multiple novels, including the Otter Lake Mystery Series and Even Fall Witches B&B Mysteries, which is my personal favorite. She lives in Ottawa with her husband, kids, dog, cat, and new kitten coming very soon. Welcome, Auralee. We're so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Next up, we've got Delemhach, who is the Canadian author of the very, very popular series, The House Witch, The Princess of Potential, and the Burning Witch series. You guys have seen all of those on KU. They're amazing. She is already hard at work on her next trilogy. Okay, due to release next spring. Is that still accurate? Yes?
Yep. So the Ether Witch is due to release March/early April of 2025,
Okay.
and there may even be a whole other trilogy unrelated to the House Witch universe coming out as well. We'll see.
Okay, very exciting. So when Delemhach isn't following the whims of her unfortunately intelligent cats, Kraken, of course, and Pina Colada, they are teaching music privately to their students. Very cool. In this spare time, outside of writing and work, they enjoy cooking and reading and hiking and spending time with family and trying not to remember their socially awkward moments. Amen to that. Welcome, my friend. I'm so excited to finally meet you in person. This is so fun.
I've always loved your cozy corner. It's always so fun to visit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. I'm also so excited to introduce you to Sangu Mandana. Sangu is the author of the best-selling romantasy and romantic cozy fantasy, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, one of my favorite books of all time. She recently wrapped another cozy story in that same universe, which is out next year. Yes, out next year at some point. Yes. We don't have a release date, but it's coming. She lives, oh, I mean, it's in the same world still, right? Yes. Kind of?
Yeah, sort of. It's same vibes.
Yes.
Sort of different kind of universe.
Okay. But same essence as
Yes,
the very
very much the
yes.
same essence.
Love it. We'll honestly take anything from you. That's fine. She lives in the east of England, and she's joining us at 11 p.m. at night, where the wild green woods and windblown seas find their way into everything she writes. Sangu, I'm so happy that you are here. Thank you for joining us so late.
Yeah.
And finally, we've got the lovely, lovely Sydney J. Shields. Sydney is a swamp creature who evolved to hold a pen. She is magna cum laude graduate of Columbus State University. Are you kidding? That's awesome. Where she majored in communication. Amazing. You may know her best from her best-selling romantasy novel, The Honey Witch, which got tons of buzz. She currently lives in Savannah, Georgia, with her partner and their dog. And when not writing, Sydney can be found playing chess in the park, savoring afternoon tea, or doing any other activities that an 84-year-old soul trapped in a 25-year-old body would enjoy. Welcome, Sydney. So happy you're here as well. Thank you, guys. All the introductions. All right. So we are here to discuss one of my personal favorite figures in fantasy, the witch. Let's just dive right in with why, out of all magical creatures, did you choose the witch? Auralee, let's start with you. What led you to witchcraft?
Honestly, I think it was what I said in my bio. It was the Grimm's fairy tales. I read that my parents had a huge collection, read it as a kid every night, and I had a forest in my backyard with a creek. And the two just went together so well. And it was also, when I was a kid, there was not the internet and there wasn't kid shows all the time. So my mom was just like, get out, come back when the street lights come on. Yep. And I would just play in the forest. And when you've got a creek, it's kind of like a cauldron. And I would pull out weeds and flowers and try to mix them together and make something. And it kind of just has gone from there.
It's just grown and expanded into your writing.
Yeah, the only thing I should say back then was I only had one playmate. He lived down the street and he was obsessed with being a pirate because he had a wooden sword. So we had kind of a genre clashing thing going on, but it worked.
Would love to see that in writing at some point. That sounds like a great story. I'm just saying.
I'll work on that.
There you go. I love it. Sydney, what about you?
So for me, the magic system of the book was what came to me first because I was working at a honey company keeping bees day in and day out. That was just what I was up to. And one day we were harvesting some honey from our hives and we were comparing it to all the different types that we had. And I just became overwhelmed with awe of the natural world and how it felt like real magic to me. And it just felt like you see honey in spell work so often. It just felt like such a natural integration of the two to really dig into what types of effects different types of honey could have. So it just felt very natural for the story that I wanted to write.
That's perfect. I love that. It is true. I never thought about how much honey is used in potion making. Mm-hmm. And across centuries. It's always been some type of herbalist something. Yeah, absolutely. That's so fascinating. Oh, I love it. What about you, Sangu?
I think my sort of origin story as a witch kind of came with much the same as Auralee, sort of playing with sticks and mud and bits of leaves and bits of flowers as a child. Fairy tales, sort of devouring them. And I think it's just that sense of when I think about magic and believing in magic, it's always the witch I come back to because I think that's what I felt closest to as a child. And now as an adult, it also feels like the most natural thing for me. So it's just that sense of trying to recapture some of the magic that we had when we were kids as adults.
I love this.
The witches sort of encapsulates that for me.
Yeah. I feel like the witches just play. That's what they do. They play. And so it harkens back to that. That's so interesting. I love that. What about you, Delemhach?
I'm sensing a common theme with all of us. So grew up always loving the witchy stories, the books, just the allure of magic. I had like a little copse of trees in my backyard, and then I was kind of in the country where, surrounded by woods as well. So I was traipsing through there almost every weekend. And yeah, you just kind of, I wasn't as cool as Auralee making potions of my own, but I don't know. I just had this sense that there was just kind of like magic. And I think too, my dad loves to tell the story of how on both sides of his family there were kind of village witches and how they kind of came down. So, and really what it was, one of them just happened to know a lot about herbs and she apparently knew special prayers and could do exorcisms and that, which was interesting.
Ooh.
And then the other one, she was able to read tea leaves and predict the future. And she was very, very accurate, and it kind of spooked a lot of the family. So I think, I'm feeling kind of, oh, I came from that and I'm really interested in that, so it really resonated again. And then you just get all of the mystery, and then you get the warmth and the magic and I don't know. I don't fully understand when someone's like, oh, I can't do fantasy, I can't do witches, because I'm like, how? Anyways.
There's something, deeply in touch, like with all of us when it comes to the witchy piece. Yeah, I agree. Out of all magical creatures, it feels like the one that's most almost grounded in reality, in a sense. Yeah, it's so interesting. So to go further, even deeper into the witch, and anyone can answer this because it might not apply to all of us, but the witch has been kind of an infamous figure throughout history, as we know, but whether it's fear or fascination, witches are often reduced to a specific stereotype when it comes to media. And I love that all your books take their own steps away from that stereotype. And I just love to know, as you begin building your story, were there any conscious considerations to heal or reframe that cliche witchy narrative? And why was that important to you? So anyone can answer this if you had that experience. And if not, we'll move on.
I was going to say, for me, it wasn't a conscious choice. I didn't realize this until after, but I based a lot of the witchcraft in my book on my mother. When I was talking about sort of the kitchen witch powers, that was my mother. She would make, like she could make a Christmas dinner like nobody's business. I'm not saying there wasn't a lot of stress and a lot of work that went into that, but the dinner itself was magical. Same with the garden. She had an amazing garden, and she could gather flowers together. And I didn't even realize this was a talent, and make a bouquet that was just gorgeous. And like, I consider those kind of traditionally female, I don't know what they call them, skills, as being magical. And I didn't realize that at the time, but that's how those things made me feel. So, yeah.
I love that. Anybody else?
I think the only thing that I kind of leaned in and explored both sides of the fascination and fear with, like, kind of my main character Finn. People who are afraid of him, people who expected that he could just magically fix everything. And I just wanted to ground it very much so in the humanity behind it, and just how it's kind of like how some people just have a special touch with things. But I think the biggest trope that I wound up flipping was making Finn a boy, because originally house witch girl, very much like Auralee's mother, it sounds like. But I kind of just wanted to challenge myself and try and create this very, you think of witches as more female, so kind of like getting them more in touch and more involved in nature and what have you.
And what we got from that was, there was this sense of softness, though, that we got in Finn that made him such a dream character. I feel like, as just that version of masculinity is always so tender and endearing, and it was very bright. I loved it. Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah.
He's a grumpy side,
but he's soft. He's like a little melty. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, I would love to know then, were there any challenges to writing a witchy story or anything that you were surprised by as you were crafting the characters? Everyone's eyes go.
I think
It was easy.
I was surprised by like how instinctive it felt, especially like I was working hands-on with honey a lot. And so I think I was surprised by how much it, forgive the pun, but it just sort of like flowed, like coming up with the magic system. I felt like it was easy for me to ascribe what I thought different magic would come from these different types, and I thought that it would feel a little bit stickier, but it just all fell into place to the point where I was like, sometimes I question if I'm even making this up. Sometimes I wonder if you could get these from these different types of honey. I have tried it occasionally. Some of them work.
I love it. Anybody else?
I think the thing that I found sort of the most challenging in terms of crafting a witch story was finding that balance between all the fun tropes, all the things that, take me back to childhood and potion making and cauldrons, while also bringing something different and new and not feeling like it was simply the same story we'd heard and seen a gazillion times before. And I mean, there is no such thing as a brand new story. We're all kind of retelling a million things that came before us, and we're just putting our own spin on it. And for me, it was just about finding that balance between all the tropes I loved so much and putting my own spin on it.
Yeah. And you were able to find that balance. Do you have any regrets? Do you feel like you were able to figure it out?
I don't have any regrets. I think that I did. I guess it's one of those things where the proof's in the pudding, and
yeah.
I don't know if I get to judge whether I did an okay job at balancing.
I will say I feel like you did a great job balancing. Fantastic job. Yes, I loved it. Of course. Anybody else have any challenges? Super easy. Cool. So we'll talk about tropes, because Sangu, you mentioned tropes, and I one thing I did notice about each of your novels is the witch's journey to found family. Your main characters all struggle at some point with loneliness or being misunderstood, and I think that's just a really interesting through line across your stories. Can you talk about why found family felt important for a witch's story for your story?
I think we often see magic as a metaphor for being different in some respect, and I think that calls back to feeling a bit whimsical and magical when you're a dirt kid. I think we were all dirt kids, just living out in nature. But I think the solution to that, the medicine to feeling different for your whole life, is when you find the people who make you feel like you've always belonged there, like you've always been there. And that trope plays so well with this, like the putting it against the isolation of magic and being different. It's just such a warm balm for seeing a character go through that.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's sort of, it is that sense of feeling like you are the odd one out in one way or another, whatever way that might be, and then finding your people. And I think that the timing as well with this one, when I started writing this book, it was COVID, when I think we were all discovering just how much we'd taken human connection for granted, and how strange it was to live without those everyday interactions. And I think that for me, it was a combination of that kind of lifelong feeling of not quite fitting in, combined with the isolation of that particular time, that sort of generated this character and her feelings of of loneliness, yeah, and her sort of her quest. I mean, for her, it's not even a quest. She doesn't even think it's possible to find her people. She's not looking for a family. It just happens to find her because she's resigned herself to never having it. She thinks she's too different, too weird. It's not possible. And then, yeah, and that, like Sydney said, it is like a warm balm to really see a character go through that journey of feeling like they are not lovable to discovering that they are.
Man, it's so good. I'm realizing I'm just sitting back thinking about it. Like I'm just realizing how much we do actually, how much the witch as a figure represents just what it is to be human. Weirdly, there's so many, yeah, pulls. What about you guys? Anything else there about why it felt important?
Mine was a little different. I don't want to get too glum, but I had, before I wrote this, I just found out that my mom had cancer. And things were kind of a blur. It went very quickly, but she made me promise her I would keep writing. And she wanted me to do it while she was in the hospital. I'm like, you're crazy. Like, I can't just do that. But she made me promise. I think she was worried that I'd sink into a deep depression. And then after she passed, I was just in such a vulnerable place that I wanted to create a world that was loving, that was gentle, that I belonged in, where I could sort of figure out a way to heal. And that was the only thing I could write about. Anything else. And that's why in the book, there's a big theme of grief, because here my mom had made me promise that I had to write. But it was all I could think about. So, but that's like, I never set out to write really a cozy fantasy or a cozy anything. I just needed to be cozy. So, yeah.
I'm so
I
sorry
relate
to
to
hear
that
about
so
your mom.
deeply.
Yeah, I love that.
Sorry
Beautiful.
for your loss, Auralee. That's horrible. She sounds like an absolutely amazing magical woman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What a legacy to leave, and what a beautiful story to honor her with. I love that.
It definitely helped me grieve too. Absolutely. That, that book was my mom, and I was really glad when it was able to touch other people. So
yeah. Delemhach, what about you?
Oh, well, I'm not sure how to follow any of that.
Found family was very prevalent in your story. I loved it.
Yeah, I think, well, similar to Sydney and Sangu, I think it's just that that loneliness that either you feel and you ache to go away, or that you just resign yourself to, I'm just kind of different, and that's just how it's going to be. And you don't expect anything from the world, even though it's kind of there. And then it was like, really, I started writing the story, as I think a lot of us were started writing during COVID. And my whole thing was, I had tried writing fantasy and it was very, very dark, and I just wanted to write something light and fun and just awesome. And I think about so many of these books where the king is terrible, or this person is awful and backstabs. I'm like, what if we're all just like really decent people? And what if we're okay to what if it's okay to call someone out, and they're not going to beat you up or something like that. They're actually going to go, oh, I actually didn't think about that, and they are actually these feeling empathetic people. And just I think the big bad is made to feel so prevalent all around us and in stories, that what if it's just, what if for the most part we have a lot of really decent people, and it's only just like the one or two that are kind of crummy. And so it's just kind of like realizing it's not all bad, and kind of letting people in slowly as you realize that, and having that loneliness, as many of you said, kind of ease away into something kind of, melting like butter or like warm tea. It's just kind of like, okay, it's okay. You can let go now a little bit.
Again, the human experience. I love this connection. This is so interesting to even start to put together. So, let's talk magic systems. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. So, from honeys to potions to cooking to spells, each of you is examining a unique way to be a witch in your story. And I'd love to hear more about the process of developing your specific magic system. Sydney, I'm dying. Can you go a little bit deeper into it? I know we talked a little bit about learn, but yeah, I would love a little bit more information.
Yeah, so I think I owe a lot of it to my like beekeeping mentor, Ted. Just absolute, just so
Ted,
lovely.
what a gem.
Ted is such a gem. I was working at this honey company just like in marketing, and I just didn't anticipate to be so fascinated in the actual, like that being in the actual apiary was not what I was supposed to be doing. That was not in my job description at all. And when I took this job, I don't think you could have dragged me into the apiary. Like, even if I was so scared, like you're going into a big swarm of bees. I'd never done it before. It was very intimidating. And then Ted brought me on a trip where we were installing an observational beehive in a library. Very thematic trip. Who knew it would lead to? But we were installing this beehive, and we got to literally like scoop bees up with our hands and plop them into the hive, and they were so snuggly, they were so cuddly. Not a single person got stung. None of us wore like any gear or anything. It was literally just like, okay, here you go, like picking them up and moving them into their new house. They were having such a great time. It's me, Ted, and a bunch of little elementary school kids scooping up bees and plopping them down, and it was so it was like confronting this truth that this thing I'd been scared of for so long never ever wanted to hurt me. They were always gentle, they were always kind, they were always the crux of our natural world. And I just became so obsessed. So from then on out, every time Ted was going to do anything, installing hives, harvesting honey, checking on the apiaries, any of that, I was going with him to see everything. And I know he's the best. And it was during Tupelo season where I really got the idea. So Tupelo honey is the rarest honey that we have. You can only get it for like 2 months out of the year, and it's from like really, really sticky, stinky, swampy areas. And so we were on one of these trips harvesting all of this like really rare honey that genuinely doesn't taste or look like any honey that you've had before. It's like bubblegummy, anisey, licoricey, and kind of pink. And I had just never seen honey like this. I didn't know that it could be so different. Like the contrast between different kinds could be so stark. And then I just went down the whole rabbit hole. I was like, well, now I need to know every single type of honey that's ever existed ever in the history of the world, and, and what they all do and what they taste like and how we make them and the process of it and how rare some of these things can be, how valuable. And from then on, I was like, this it straight up is the closest thing that we have to a magic potion, and I need to tell people about this. And so then I wrote this book.
Unreal. I love that so much. It's such a unique inspiration, and it's so hands-on. I didn't know it was that hands-on, that you had that much experience. It wasn't just casual research, it was your life.
It really was. Like, my dream is an apiary. That's all I want in life.
Wow.
I at very least, I need to have my own little hive, and I need to know every single bee in there, and they all need names.
I love it. I love it. And I gotta say, the little honey that you sent in your book box for the promotional book box, top notch. Thank you so much. It was well chosen. It was a great honey.
I was particular about that. Like, I was like, because sometimes stuff you get from the store is not real honey, and so I was like, it has to, please. Yeah, please.
This is good quality. It was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sangu, I'd love to hear more about your magic system.
I'm not really sure I can say anything to follow that.
It's a little simpler.
Mine is not. Mine had no deep sort of thought behind it. Mine was vibes. Mine was very much. I mean, okay, yes, so there was a little bit. I did have to, in the back of my head, I had some kind of childhood, like, knowledge about what different herbs and sort of spices can do, sort of like their meanings and their healing properties and things like that. And so I had to dig into that a little bit more, and I did kind of bring that out in elements of Mika's spell work and her potion making. Obviously, some of it is just completely made up, as far as I'm aware. And please do correct me if I'm wrong, because I would love to be proven wrong. There's no such thing as magical stardust, but maybe one day, who knows?
It was so charming.
Yeah. But like things like the essence of peppermint and lavender, these things really do have properties that we could sort of extend into the magical world. And so for me it was all about kind of pulling a little bit from real nature and also from vibes, really. Just kind of like a warm, cozy mood. Like the magic itself manifests itself as like gold dust, just in this kind of sort of like the way dust spirals when it's hit by the sun. It's just kind of like that lazy, glimmery thing. And I just wanted a soft, uncomplicated, inviting magic system that sort of makes the witch who uses it feel welcome and loved. And like for a long time, in fact, Mika reflects that she and magic have always had each other and nothing else. And that's sort of what I wanted to create with that.
There was a touch of nostalgia in it too, in my opinion, because the dust for me felt like pixie dust. It was that it harkened back to that, at least in my spirit. I loved it. Yeah, it was very cool. Very cool. Auralee, what about you?
I'm still thinking about honey now. But so when I set out to write it, I wasn't in a great place. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to write everything I love and I don't care. And so it's like, I have spent most of my life watching movies like Practical Magic, and I love Gilmore Girls. And even before that, I loved The Witches of Eastwick when I was young. And I pulled together everything I had sort of always wanted to be able to do. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to let it loose. And that's what it was. I didn't care if it necessarily matched, if it spoke to me, if I loved it, if I wanted to cast that kind of spell, then it was going in. So
amazing. I love that. Delemhach, what about you?
Well, so I loved the idea of just, your simple hearth magic, like bowl of soup, and all of a sudden you're feeling pretty awesome on a crummy day.
Yes.
But I've also wanted to I wanted there to kind of be like, your very basic magic of the 4 elements, and then and then there was just kind of this divide with mutated witches who didn't like subscribe to just one of the elements. They kind of started taking elements of all of them, and so it kind of made Finn even fall through the cracks even more. Kind of like, you're not just odd as a person, you're also odd as a witch. And so that's kind of how it built off. And then I also have mages in my story, but the difference between them is, instead of it being kind of like in them where it's instinctual like witches with their power, mages, it was very much so more about study. And so they had to do like 10 years of study, and then they had to be very practical in the real world. And this is its own kind of politics that there's a little bit of fun, because witches are like, well, if you don't have it, you shouldn't be trying to do it. The mages, they're being like, well, you should be disciplined if you're wielding something this powerful. And so it's that kind of thing. Had a lot of great brainstorming sessions with my husband about all of that.
Yeah, it created an interesting conflict too between, but because it's like, which is right, or is there a way to do? But that's interesting. I love that. Auralee, you mentioned some media, some witchy media, and if you are in the chat right now, feel free to also answer this question. But I would love to hear from each of you. Do you have a favorite piece of witchy media? You can give more than one answer, but anything that inspired your stories or just you absolutely love. Anyone can answer.
I say again, yeah, I would choose The Witches of Eastwick, but I want to say, Meg, I love your content. And when you set up a video and you ask if I've had a hard day, I'm just like, yes, I have. I do want to drink.
That's so nice. You know what? 10 times out of 10, I have to, and that's why I'm saying it. I write the scripts for me. That's so nice. Oh, thank you.
So, yeah.
That means the world to me. Thank you. That's so kind.
Mine is Kiki's delivery service.
Yes.
I watched that. I watched that yesterday. I'm not even gonna lie. I
What
literally watched
comfort.
it
Yes.
I
What
used
comfort.
to check that DVD out of the library like on repeat until I got in trouble for never bringing it back. Like I would come in and be like, I'm checking it out once more. Let me just scan that again and I'll keep it over here. And then I kept it for 3 months and I had to give it back.
Oh, I love that so much.
It's so good.
It's so good. Anybody else?
Yeah, in that vein, mine's Howl's Moving Castle.
Mhm.
But actually, the book, not the movie. I mean, I love the movie, I do, but the book is quite a different beast, I think, and
It
it
is.
is sort of softer and cozier. And Sophie, as like the witch, is sort of like the witch I want to be, sort of a little bit
Yeah.
grumpy, no time
Just
for
tired of
anybody's
everybody.
nonsense.
Tired of
Just like,
everyone.
no, I've just about had it. But also she's so domestic, but it's not
Mm.
portrayed as like a flaw. It's not portrayed as like this weakness in her.
No.
She's just happy to get shit done in a way that a lot of in like, in the home sort of sphere, which is just so relatable and so cozy, because I would love to be a person who can just get shit done. I mean, I'm not, but I can dream.
I prefer the book as well. I have a feeling there's going to be a little fight in the chat over that. Everybody has differing opinions. So sorry, but I also I'm a book person as well. Anybody else?
The content, so witchy content, I feel it's so hard to pin because it's like an amalgamation of all these amazing things. So practical magic, witches of Eastwick, even a little bit of things like Willow, or like, oh gosh, if you're going back to like the kid days, Casper and
Do it.
Witch, like oh my gosh, like Wave of the Wand, she could do backflips and all of this stuff. And oh gosh, Halloween Town, I had never seen it until a friend of mine recently made me watch it because she said I look like the mom. Anyway, but like, think about the grandma's
what?
house with the witches and the cauldron and anyway.
Yep. I feel like my first intro to anything slightly witchy, because I grew up very religious, so it was not really allowed in my home, but I was allowed to watch Pippi Longstocking. And my, yes, Sydney. Oh, I leaned into the camera when I laughed. I was not supposed to do that. So I'm sorry if I just blew out anyone's eardrums. That was a big no-no, and I did it. So sorry. Okay, but Sydney, I was the same, where you were renting Kiki's.
Yeah.
Pippi was my girl. I wanted to be her. She had so much confidence. She didn't care what anyone thought of her. And there was something so mysterious and magical about her that it's that she was really okay with being alone and very comfortable being othered. And I kind of loved that about her. I mean, in the end, she gets her found family that she does actually need, but she at least felt like she was okay. And it made me feel like I could be okay too, that I felt different about my life than anyone else seemed to. I love
I
that.
want to see Pippi Longstocking again. It's been years, and it was such
She's got a
good movie.
banging song.
I mean, let me tell you, when she puts those things on her feet and she just scoots around all the bubbles and cleans up, like house magic. Let's go. Okay, so one thing that Pippi has that I absolutely do what? Sorry.
I just want to say thank you for reminding me of Willow, because I haven't seen it in so long, and it's not even really witchy, but it's that feeling it gave me when I watched it. So thank you.
100%. Oh my gosh, love Willow.
Yeah.
Oh, the brownies. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Like you'll see traces of my humor in all of from these movies that I was like, yes. Perfect.
I love that so much. And it's it's like the perfect fall rewatch as well.
Yeah.
for everybody if you need a cozy
Also, Harry
movie.
Potter. I feel like no one said it, and we have to.
Big inspiration for a lot of people, yeah. Okay, so one thing that a lot of these movies that we just mentioned have, for example, Pippi Longstocking has lots of animals. In each of your story, there is some love for an animal to some extent. So we've got bees and pups and crows and cats, and I would just love to know how did you go about choosing? Well, Sydney, we already got you, but how did you go about choosing?
You'll never guess.
Choosing the animal familiars or the characters, and why did they feel so important to the witch's journey? Anyone can answer.
Actually, I just want to ask Sydney really quickly. Are there different types of bees?
Yes. Yeah, so there's different types of bees. So we have there's honeybees, there's carpenter bees, there's all that. And then if you're talking about like actually in a hive, like the hierarchy of bees, there are drones, which are the boys who mate with the queen and then they die. That's their job. That's that's what happens. It's they love it. We don't have to feel bad for them. Never feel bad for a man. Don't ever do it. They die and and of course there's a queen bee, and a queen bee is different because they select the queen bee when she's a baby, when she's just like a regular bee, and instead of switching her diet, they feed her only royal jelly for her entire life, so she's like 3 times as big as other bees, and she slays and she rules and just absolutely runs the hive like the boss bitch that she is.
I would be perfectly comfortable with this becoming just a bee education hour if everyone's This is fascinating.
Do not tempt me, please. Don't let me do that.
It's a good time. But yeah, let's talk animals. How did you go about choosing the animal familiars or the characters, and why did they feel so important for your witch's journey?
I can say for me, I chose a crow because I have probably spent the last 7 years trying to get the crows outside of my house to bring me a gift because they do that.
Oh, my dream.
What has happened instead is, so I feed them peanuts and they yell at me when they want them. When I go outside, they pretend they don't know me. And then I throw peanuts on the driveway. I go back inside. They feed like crazy. And
Rude.
Okay, so the closest I've got to a gift, and I'm not even sure it was a gift, but someone left an orange peel on a rock for me, I think. and the other very cool thing was they recognize me when I go for a walk, and they will follow me, but they still act like they don't know me. And at one point, they followed my van until I got home, and then I fed them. So crows are just amazing. I just wish they would show me more love. So,
I agree. That's really unfair. It's really unfair.
I heard of like some 4-year-old girl who fed it a chicken nugget and it brought her a ring.
Rude.
How is that fair?
Absolutely.
Anyways.
So the crow made it into your book out of revenge? Or
I made a crow that I would actually, this is the crow witch relationship I want to have.
Crow. Love that. Delemhach, I see something there I would like more information on. Thank you.
I felt really bad because Auralee, as you were talking, Kraken starts yowling in the background.
Of course.
No. And he was bringing me his toy because he likes to bring prizes.
Oh.
And so he needs to be admired after he does that, or he'll keep crying.
That's fair.
So I apologize. He had to. I think I said even before the chat started, I'm like, the cats are going to come when they hear themselves being talked about. Anyway, hi. Yeah, he got written in because I had all these real life stories about him that were wild. And so he made it in, and mostly because, it's fun to write about your cat with the true stories, but also my husband got overly excited and was like, oh man, should have Kraken do this? And he's going to be on a boat, and his fur is going to be going in the wind like Pirates of the Caribbean. I was like, okay. So that's how that all happened. But yeah, so there you go.
Love it.
So
Real inspiration.
Oh, 100%. Oh my God, the cat gang, that was an actual thing. There was a gang issue. There was a girl kitty that was two-timing people. There was a fight.
Oh my.
Yeah. So there was in a condo, there was a green space, and all these cats would hang out there. And Kraken joined them, but started pursuing one of the only girl cats, and that didn't go over well.
Rough.
Oh, yeah, he was trying to play it big.
I love it. Sangu, let's talk puppies, please.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So Cersei, the Mika's golden retriever, is sort of based on a golden retriever that our family had when I was sort of 10. I say when we were 10 as if that was the only year. No, we had him for a long time, but I think we got him when I was probably a bit younger. But yeah, so I always knew she was going to be a golden retriever like him. I always knew she was going to have a witch name. And of course, Mika also has her koi, and they were just sort of an accidental addition. It sort of happened in the scene where she's unpacking her car, and I was like, what is the most ridiculous thing she can take out of her car? And it was a whole pond filled with koi. And then, of course, they had to have witch names as well. And it was also sort of during that I discovered that koi have a really long lifespan if they're looked after properly. And it sort of felt like this really nice tie-in to the fact that she doesn't dare make connections, but she will with her dog and with her koi because she feels like they're safe, they accept her, and it's that sort of that unquestioning loyalty that animals have sometimes. I mean, Auralee's crows clearly have a sort of love-hate relationship there. But I just feel like that's just a thing, and also a witchy trope that I love is having that familiar, and it could be a familiar like a cat, or it could be something weird like koi.
It makes so much sense.
A swarm of bees.
Or bees. I love it so much. So you guys, we're going to wrap up here soon. If you are in the chat right now, I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to get to your questions. So if you would like to add a question to the chat, now is the time, and I'll pop over there after this last question, and we'll get some from you guys, if that is good with everybody here. Y'all good with some audience questions? Perfect. So my final question that I want to know is one that I ask on every interview I ever do. You can answer this however you want. It can be something very deep and serious. It can be as silly, as you want it to be. But what is keeping you cozy right now? Sydney, let's start with you.
Oh, it's this book. It's this one. It's this right here. It's
Homegrown Magic.
I am almost done. I'm on page 275. It is keeping me so cozy. It is inspired by the origin story of the co-authors D&D characters, and it's so fun. And this is the answer.
Done. I love this. Okay, Homegrown Magic, everybody. There's a book. Correct. I love it. Okay, Sangu, what about you?
Oh, I feel like cozy is hard to come by right now.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, it's probably like something as basic as just tea. I think I've reached that point, both sort of mentally and physically, where just any little joy is a good thing. And sometimes that is, that's what you get. You get the little joys. And yeah, tea is a big one for me, just sort of like that hot cup when it gets cold. And it's not a very deep answer, but it
doesn't have to be. That's what I love. It doesn't have to be. It's whatever is anything keeping you cozy. I'd love to know, do you have a favorite or a preferred flavor of tea?
I mean, I'm not an English breakfast or a builder's tea kind of person. I'm very much a honey and lemon and ginger and, those peppermint, like just sort of like the herbal kinds with lots of sugar. I mean, I think people are shocked by how much sugar I have in my tea. I did an event last week and And I said, and we were all having herbal tea, and everyone else had it without any sugar at all. And I was like, can I be that weird person who asks for sugar? And she was like, yeah, of course. Like, should I put one in? I was like, 3. And then afterwards, I was like, well, at home it's 5.
Oh, you're like Buddy the Elf. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Tea is keeping me cozy as well. Delemhach, what about you? Fair.
I have a very fluffy cat that is very warm, and I have a fire that I will have to tend shortly after this video. But it's a rainy fall day with a fluffy cat. I made cream of butternut squash soup today.
Oh,
we're pretty solid on the cozy at home right now.
Oh, what a beautiful Sunday. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Auralee, what about you?
It's my first turtleneck of the season. Yeah, now I got to get
Congratulations.
butternut squash soup. Oh my god.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, drop the recipe. Like, please.
Yeah,
send us
thank
that
you.
because I'm so serious.
I made it as I went, but I'll try and remember.
Yeah.
Those are the best
Get
ones.
it in the email.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to switch over and go into the chat here. Let's see if we have. It's so weird to see all of us like on the chat. Okay, someone mentioned a raccoon family earlier, and I love the notion of raccoon familiars. Is that an actual question? Oh no, they just love a raccoon familiar. I love it too. I love it too, Dina. That's a great one. Okay. Oh, the house. There's so many y'all. They love you guys. Okay, if you were a witch, what would you use your powers to do? Ooh, interesting. I think for me, mundane tasks. I just take care of my stuff. Just wash the dishes. It would be very simple and non-imposing. Yeah. What about you guys?
Yeah, I feel like that's sort of, it would either be get the things like put my clean clothes away. They've just been sitting in a basket for a week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just mundane things. I mean, that or like, world-changing things.
Yeah.
That too, yes.
The There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I think I would do if I actually had the powers is like I go back to a forest and a creek and then like do it for real and just like role play with my powers at the same time. Like I go out at night and like just walk under the stars doing stuff and being cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, like I would go live in the dirt, and I would go live in the dirt, and the people who needed to know where I was and needed to get their little potions that I make for them, they would know where I am. Other than that,
perfect.
I would be invisible in the dirt.
Oh my god! I think I would, similar to you, Sydney. I think I would love so for years I worked in restaurants, and I would love to have like the magical restaurant that gives you good food, but also can like cure the common cold kind of thing. I think that would be awesome.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Someone asked, what is the most magical item in your home? That's a great question. I'm trying to think.
I have a fairy door in my daughter's bedroom.
You have a fairy door?
Yeah, it's
that's pretty magical.
So we've had it years. When my son, who is now almost 13, when he was 5, we got it at Christmas and like spun him a story about how we had it because the icebergs were melting. And that meant that the ice fairies were losing their homes. And so Santa said, can we look after a couple of ice fairies who didn't have a home anymore? And so we said, yes, of course. And so now
that's so dark.
They still live.
That's so dark.
It's one of those things where it's like, on the one hand, I'm trying to teach my child about, real world things. On the other, I need to make it magical. So yeah, it was like it was dark, but it's also been like a really nice thing. Like my daughter still like writes little notes for them and leaves little things out for them.
That's really tender.
Very sweet.
That is so magical. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, Sydney, what were you gonna say?
I mean, I have like, the classic witchy things. I have a lot of fun crystals and things, but I also have a jar it's super sentimental to me. It's a jar of the very first honey that I ever harvested from our local apiary, the one that I go to all the time. And I am so careful with it. I use it for very, very special intentional purposes. But the great thing about honey is that as long as you store it properly, it never goes bad. It might crystallize, but even if it does, you can just heat it up and it goes back to normal. And so I've had that for years and I will keep it forever. I'll probably be buried with it like King Tut.
I love it. I love it.
Embalm you in it.
Yes. All over. You would be glowing. It would be amazing.
Finally.
Finally. What about you, Auralee? Or Delemhach?
This one's kind of weird, and I don't even know how magical it is, but I love it. I used to work at a college. I taught there, and the library was purging books one day, and in it I found an encyclopedia of the occult and spiritualism. And like, it's a real encyclopedia supposedly of the history, and it's got spells in there, and it like, this was from the 70s. It's wild.
So cool. That's so cool.
I love those. So that's one of my prized possessions.
Yeah. Do you like shake it off, give it a little dusting before it came into your home, just in case anything was clinging to it? Delemhach, what about you? What's most magical in your home?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll stop being a crazy cat lady. I won't answer my cats. I don't know. Like, I feel like I was able to find so because my family was also kind of into this, I would find, and my childhood was just so magical because my dad was so into this stuff too, and he like carved knotwork and everything. So it's really hard to pick one thing, but I'm going to say probably the coolest thing, and magic has to be involved in how it's still here, is one of my old violins. It was made in 1698.
Wow. Oh my God.
Germany by Stephen Steiner. And how I found it was I went to this violin shop, I won't say where, and the guy said he knew we would collect violins because we thought like the history was really cool. And he's like, I'm gonna burn this one. Like, you can't play it, you can't, like, I'm not going to bother with it. And I'm looking inside, and because we collected violins, I started reading like old Latin a little bit. And so I'm reading the card inside, and I go, we're going to take this. Yeah. And we wound up fixing it. Turned out it was like a violin, part of a series from a student of Steiner, and it survived all throughout, and it traveled through Europe. It somehow got to Canada and was almost burned. And I think that's pretty freaking magical. It can still be played. We actually did get it fixed up, and it's phenomenal.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. That is very magical. That's 1,000% magical.
It's pretty cool.
Oh wow, I love that. I think the most magical thing I have, I think, in the tea room there's right here are my grandmother's journals that she kept, and they're all wrapped in this like really thick fabric that she picked out. Which is very tender, and I always keep them up here, and every now and then before I like film, if I'm nervous or if I know I have to say something like important and I feel like it's going to be too saccharine, or I'm not going to do it, genuinely, or I need to I always get anxious about that, but I will go into those and just read some of her words and some of her notes, and it's always so tender. It's always so tender. So yeah, hi Destin. Destin, I think you're a bit early. Pop back out, and then we'll see you at 6:30.
Sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, you're good. No, you're totally good. I can't wait to see you soon.
All right, see y'all later. Just
you're awesome. Bye, Destin. Oh, that's awesome. Dustin is actually the author of the cozy fantasy that I'll be publishing with Bindery. How cool is that? Okay, so that's it for tonight, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. What a joy it was to be with each of you. Everyone, be sure to go check out all of these lovely, lovely humans' work. All of these books are incredible. Really, really quick before we go, if we want to just do a speed round of, is there anything you would like anyone to check out? Anything that you would like to promote? Sangu, we'll start with you. Anything coming up that you'd like them to know about?
I guess my next book is Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, which will hopefully be out in April 2025. What year are we? Yeah, 5.
I know. Accurate. So next spring. Look for that next spring.
That's it.
Absolutely. Awesome. Sydney, what about you?
Hi, I'm Sydney. You can find me across all socials at Sydney J. Shields. I'm the author of The Honey Witch, and it has to do with bees and honey, and you can read it, and you can get it anywhere.
Perfect. Auralee, what about you?
My next book is The Late Night Witches. It's coming out next summer, and I'm really excited about that. So,
perfect. All right, Delemhach.
So I'm Delemhach. Find me on TikTok, or you can usually find my Discord. Lots of great community. We do share recipes there, which is awesome. And so I would love it. So we have tons of sales going on right now with Audible, with The Burning Witch. I think The Princess of Potential is featured somewhere. I know The House Witch, the very first book, is on Prime Reading right now. And I will have The Ether Witch out, like I said a little earlier in the talk, 2025, March, April.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are just, seriously, thank you so much for writing these witchy stories. Thank you so much for writing so much heart into them as well, and just giving us so much joy. Truly, like I said at the beginning, you made my job, again, so filled with joy. Just filled with joy. You make my job very easy. Thank you for allowing this to be my job, to read your stories. Like, what a gift. And I just appreciate your writing so much. You guys are incredibly talented. And this was just the peak for me. I'm peaked. I'm done. I can die happy now. Embalm me in honey. We're good. All right, you guys, have a great night. And if you are sticking around to join us, the next panel is going to be the Bindery panel, which is really exciting. So we'll have a lot of fun talking about publishing and what's coming for that world. But yeah, I love y'all so much. Thank you. It was so good to see you. Bye, y'all.
bye.